During 1884 in Berlin, Africa sparked interest in many European powers. They had great intentions towards their land and people, due to the fact they were unaware about their dreams and the identity of independent state. However, this is an alternate world where the roles are chosen by the African nations, the borders are chosen by the African nations, and most importantly, the story is chosen by the African nations. Whispered rebelliously amongst the vast hallways, progressive African leaders harshly demand oversight in Berlin. Listed directly below are influential African nations' authorities: Emperor Menelik II of Ethiopia, Queen Ranavalona III of Madagascar, and King Khama III of Botswana, who are crucial in the entwined rebellion of African nations. They say that the message is clear: Africa is for the Africans, and that is they and only they that have the right to determine the future of the continent, being motivated by the Pan-African spirit and referring to their common vision of unity, self-determination of the continent, to propose a division of Africa into more or less 3 continental states, which would unite the existing independent states without disrupting established borders while respecting the sovereignty of each of these states. The African delegates' stand stuns European powers. They refuse to be seen as tokens or appendages to the European men. They also refuse at first to accept the terms of the conference. They are not given the economically viable territories they demand, and they are insulted and patronized. They turn for support to a number of sympathetic European allies, to whom they have been deliberately giving interviews and speeches, and who are then able to put pressure on the European powers to review the conference's terms. What comes in the days ahead is a new sense of respect and cooperation between the nations. They put their heads together and work through these issues, redrawing boundaries based not on some silly divided map with no meaning, but through conflab and the united opinion of the African people. The result is a patched-up body of autonomous states, each with its own culture, language, and identity, yet joined together by a shared commitment to unity and solidarity. From the sandy beaches of the west coast of the continent to the plains of the Serengeti, from the mountains of the Atlas to the jungles of the Congo, a new Africa rise from the ashes of colonialism, a continent united in diversity and freed from the bonds of oppression. The consequences of Africa's liberation that had been unleashed have been far-reaching in their impact, affecting peoples and nations far, removed from the locus of the event. The liberation of Africa, like the flapping of a butterfly's wings on one continent, has sent out shockwaves that have radically altered the course of history everywhere. The end of colonialism in Europe prompts a reckoning with imperialism's sins, and those nations of Europe attempt to address that sins and questions of restitution and reconciliation. This moment inspires movements for social justice and movements for decolonization globally, and more people are rising up and demanding their rights. The battle for civil rights takes on new urgency in the Americas, as descendants of Africans draw inspiration from the success of their brothers and sisters from across the sea, as "Black is beautiful" becomes a battle cry from the streets of Harlem to the plantations of the Caribbean. Previously silent voices increasingly find expression in the assertion of their rights. Meanwhile, in the mainland of Africa, newly freed countries foster an era of imagination and modernization, as these nations exploit natural resources and people's knowledge to cautiously build a brighter future for the coming generation. Africa booms as never before, thrusting itself to the forefront of the global dialogue, from its booming economies in Nigeria and South Africa to vibrant cultural scenes in Tunisia and Senegal, and conclusively proving that the destiny of Africa lies in none other than the Africans themselves. Still, there cannot be any period without challenges, and just as triumphs are evident, the challenges are also on view. The scars from the slave trade and colonialism that we plagued us as a people are very pronounced, and poverty, corruption, and conflict still ravage our continent, just to name a few examples. However, the hope that permits us to brave these storms and see this moment is our tribute to our indefatigability as a people and our togetherness. The sun now sets on the continent of Africa with an air of calmness. No longer does it remain in the shadow of the Berlin Conference, whose purpose was to divide Africa, but whose impact has given Africa the ability to thrive and grow, like the butterfly. It has been etched into the blueprint of the world for all to witness as not an event that caused chaos, poverty, and exploitation, but an event which unleashed a butterfly and transformed this world beyond all belief.